Hello, friends. Welcome back to Film Chewing, and we are continuing the Oscars project. This week, we will be discussing The Godfather Part II, the 1972. Shit, we'll go back to that. Sorry, I just woke up from a nap. So I was.
I think we looked at it's a 74 movie, 75
74.
Oscars.
Okay,
think
great.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I am. I'm still. You know, when you wake up from a nap and you're kind of a little out of it. So yeah, that's me right now. But
Every
yeah,
day.
so yeah, every day, every day. So yeah, let's go ahead and do introductions, and then I will have the other information when we're done. Chris, you want to start us off?
Yeah, name's Chris from the Chronicle of Chris YouTube channel and Speculative Speculations podcast, and also the Oscars project. As we are 14, 15 years in, this is fun.
Mm-hmm. And Jared.
Yeah, I agree. It is fun. And I'm at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel and on Speculative Speculations, Oscar Project, Weekly Polls, and to name a few others, yeah. So you can find me there in the page chewing forums as well.
Yes, and it was 1974, and it was the other nominees that year were Chinatown, The Conversation, Lenny, and The Towering Inferno.
It's a bit of Towering Inferno. Chinatown's a hell of a film.
Yeah.
There was actually two Francis Ford Coppola films that year.
The Conversation, yeah.
The Conversation.
Oh,
Another great movie, I think, as well.
is it? Cool.
Yeah.
So on a rewatch, because I think all of us seen it before.
Yeah.
On a rewatch, what did everyone think? I know we had the debate, or not the debate, but the conversation during The Godfather, whether or not Godfather 1 or Godfather 2 are the superior film. On a rewatch now with some ages and decades behind us, what's everyone's thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was looking over my notes and I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, this second film, it really touches on a lot of the same themes as the first one, and it really complements the first one in a lot of ways. But I have to go with the original movie as the better one, just because I think it. I just think the first one had the sense of gravitas that this one kind of was just using, riding the coattails of, sort of, and it's awesome. I love the film, but there was something that I think by itself as a movie doesn't stand as well without that first one there, and that first one really is the one that set the standard for me.
Interesting. Godfather 1 is a better movie for me. Now, I have to say, not by much. I mean, Godfather Part II is an incredible movie as well. It's unbelievable, actually, how they kept the standard over two very long movies. I mean, this one's 3 hours 20, and we've talked about the fact that some movies feel their length. I actually started watching Godfather Part 2, and I thought, God, I'll get an hour in today, and then I'll finish the rest tomorrow. And then I had to stop myself because it was just getting ridiculously late at that stage, because it was 2 hours and a bit in. I could not stop watching. It was so compulsive and so propulsive the whole way through it. But it lacks the nuance, I think, of the first. And the nuance really comes... They could have had nuance in it. And I know I've said this before, maybe on this podcast or otherwise. But I just wish that the Vito Corleone prequel stuff had been its own movie. It, to me, doesn't... I mean, it's really entertaining. It's really good. I don't think it adds anything to Michael's story, which this second film is very much about his journey from dark to darker. in a lot of ways, and the things that happened to him. The only way that it really does is to show you that him and his father are very different people. But they also started in very different people. Vito started from nothing. And in some ways, the other thing that it does is, I feel like the second movie is about the American dream. You know, that's really what that, and the twisting of the American dream in Michael's case. So, if you were going to look at it that way, maybe you say, right, you get both sides of the American dream. But I just feel there's such a difference of tone in it, but also in terms of what it's trying to say. I think, you know, I also forgot how little or how small the Vito chunks are in comparison to the rest of the story as well. If it had been a half and half thing, or even anything close to that, I think it might have made more sense in that way. But it artificially lengthened this movie, and while it's very good the whole way through, I think it kind of nips at that a little bit, for me anyway.
Interesting. Yeah, it had been a long time since I'd seen this one. Rewatching it now after seeing The Godfather, I think the first one is the far superior film. I think the second film tries to do too much. If it would have continued Michael's journey and focus on that, it's one thing. But I think the Vito stuff just felt like his rise from being a nobody to being somebody feared was way too fast. It was very quick. He was very quickly feared and admired and loved because of this one thing. But there seemed to be no consequence for killing someone who was so powerful to help his rise to the top. There was no fear of any, which was strange to me that nobody pursued him. Nobody came after him. Yeah. So that should have been two different movies. The continuation of Michael's story and the Vito story. The Vito story should have been its own movie because there's a lot to tell in that story. Like you mentioned, Chris, the American dream, his immigrant story, coming over, his mother being killed, his brothers being killed. He's shipped off to America. He's hidden. He comes to America. He's just a kid. He manages to scrape by, and all that was great. I just felt like it should have been its own thing. And the Michael stuff, he just seems miserable the whole time. And I get the reasons why, but Vito seemed to, I don't think he was happy with the business he was in. He embraced it and he made it work. But Michael just seemed like very brooding the whole time. He just seems like he's miserable the entire time. Yeah. And I get why he is. But it just, I don't know. I didn't, he just seems like he's on the edge of losing his mind the entire time. Yeah. And I think one of the topics from the last movie was Vito's comment about his kids, that his kids were spoiled, he raised his kids.
That's right.
In this luxury that they, he kind of spoiled them. And I think that comes to fruition here in this film when they're all kind of, a mess. So, and it is sad seeing them as babies and then knowing what they turn into later and knowing what happens. And it was still good, but I think the first one's a far better film.
Yeah. Solid. But to point out some of the good stuff in this film, which we all reiterated that there's a lot of great stuff about this film. What I do like is the symbolism in, of course, the opening scene, the kissing of the hand, which is very similar to The Godfather, the first one, and I really like. You said this is a film about the promise of America, and you have a lot of Statue of Liberty symbolism being shown and showing that promise. And but what I really liked was when you see Vito and the immigrants coming into America through Ellis Island, there there's all these big crowds, and it's just and it's not like a scary crowd, but it's a unknown crowd. It's the fear of the unknown. What's going to happen at this point, and you have people crowding around everywhere that does, they're all poor. They're all uncertain about their future, and they're getting, their names are getting mixed up. They're wrong, which was a common Ellis Island thing back then, to change people's names when they came here. And then it's immediately contrasted with the present, where they're having this party for Michael's kid. And I'm watching it with my wife, and she's like, "What's this party for?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's his confirmation." And she's like, "That's it? All this huge party just for that?" And I'm like, "Well, that's part of the contrast. It's luxury, and but it was a crowded luxury. There was a lot of people in this small area that was full of all the things that you wanted out of life. All this luxury was all around them, but it was still crowded, and it was still full of people that our main character didn't really want to be around, didn't want to talk to. And so it was a different kind of alienation that Michael felt with this crowded luxury than the alienation that Vito felt when he was coming in on a boat full of a bunch of people that he barely knew. And I just love that thematic contrast right there between the two different eras.
Yeah. Fabulous point, Jared. And in fact, you're just making me think of, again, the contrast between those two things in terms of Ellis Island, which I've been to. It's one of the most mind-blowing places I've ever been to in my entire life. After kind of thinking that about, what am I going to see here kind of thing, and then just kind of feeling the place. But people were literally, it didn't matter who they were at that stage. They could take on a new name. In fact, Vito couldn't even speak. It was very much a name tag, and they gave him the surname. They gave him an identity there at some stage, whereas in the confirmation party much later, it was all about exactly who you were, your position within society. We had the senator there because of who he was and all of that kind of stuff, and then and how that's such a big contrast. And you have obviously the introduction of the Frankie Pentangeli character there, when he's trying to get them to play a traditional Italian song, and it's morphs into Pop Goes the Weasel, and almost sort of like this this mockery of the tradition part of it, and and exactly, if you contrast back to Godfather Part 1 and The Wedding, which was obviously mimicking in some ways, but how much their life had been bastardized and moved on in contrast from that. And it was very much about, he was there sitting in the front seat at the prominent place, and people couldn't come near him in the same way as his father, but it was a very different situation where his father was hidden away in secret, and people were practicing to come up and speak to him and all of that kind of stuff. It was a very interesting contrasting way to start those two films.
Yeah, absolutely, because the senator who came to speak to him did not have that same level of respect that the people who came to see Vito in the first movie did, and that really stood out. And it was. I just thought that those parts were just, those contrasts were brilliant, and really, but it's still it rode on the theme that those like you mentioned the wedding in the first movie. It rode on those themes but contrasted them in brilliant ways, because in the first film we were comparing the wedding and the funeral, but it was still solidly in the culture of immigrant Italian Americans in America, whereas in this film, like you said, this new confirmation it goes beyond the bounds of the the traditional Italian American family type thing, because it's kind of mocking it, like you said, and it's not even in New York. It's in
That's
Vegas,
right.
this new
That's right.
city, this new created city, almost a model city of what America is becoming compared to the traditional immigrant experience of what New York was, and what it had, that family structure, and that that speaking of that family comes up again later too in the and later on as well, and it's a theme that runs throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the different environment of Vegas, and I think they were in Virginia City. What is it? Geez, the city in Nevada, ski town that they're in. Geez, it'll come to me. Anyway, seeing the backdrop of
Is it Reno? Reno?
no, not Reno. It's right. I used to live there. Jesus. Anyway, I think seeing the different environments and seeing the family, it's almost like they've lost their way, because, like you said, the pop goes a weasel thing, and a lot of their traditions have been lost, and it seems like they've kind of, as a family, just kind of lost their roots in a way, because they've decided to move, and they've changed their focus, and they've done a lot of other things to kind of, that was a departure from what they used to do. So I think that was, and seeing how upset some people got with that bastardization after seeing the first one was pretty striking.
Yeah, because they're trying to fit into a world that's not their own. That's what Vegas is. I mean, was set up in the first film, and specifically in the second one, as being the place where criminals could go and to be legitimate, while still being criminals. In a lot of ways, like the Hyman Roth character and all of that kind of stuff is kind of this world of those people. And it was kind of on their terms. And they were kind of selling themselves. The Corleone family has sold themselves to become part of this world. Whereas if you think back to his father and Vito in the first film, and this is why I don't think the Vito backstory is necessary, because the first film is so famous and so well thought out. You only need to refer back to the first film for contrast and for how things were. In that way, he wasn't going to join the drugs trade because it was outside the family business, and he felt it was dirty and not right, and that the whole thing was caused by that whole shift of idea. And yet Michael has basically done anything to try and fit into this world: more hotels, more power, more influence, and making more dodgy deals and all of that kind of stuff. And I just sort of say, you can see him slipping from the grandeur or the legacy that his father had left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What really pushes that home is when they're in Cuba, and because the focus, like the focus of the first film, was so much on family, and Michael's lying to himself that family's still important to him, because the main line that I remembered was when what was the guy's name? His business partner that basically betrayed him.
Johnny or Hyman Roth?
Hyman Roth. Hyman Roth tells him in Cuba, this is the business we've chosen.
Mm.
And that line right there, to me, directly contradicts the concept of this. It's a family affair, not, and I like how that kind of hit me when he said that, like, yeah, you've chosen something other than what you've been brought up as. And that was just, it just fits with him choosing to move to Vegas and all that stuff.
Lake Tahoe. I'm not sure why I forgot Lake Tahoe's name.
Yeah, Lake Tahoe, indeed. Yeah. So many interesting aspects to the structure of the film, I think, in general, and especially around Michael's relationships with his family and his and as that falls apart, because literally one by one, some die, like his mother, and some that he gets rid of because of events, and the way that he increasingly does it becomes more and more difficult to watch in some ways as we make our way through the film, and even to the point that the people that he doesn't kill and he rejects, like Tom Hagen's character, I think that's a kind of heart-wrenching scene that Tom doesn't really stand up, but he says, what have I done to deserve this treatment from you? That's very hard to watch, because Tom has been faithful the whole way along, both to his father and to him, and at the point he also gets reminded that he sees him as his brother, and it's a very high point for Tom, but then the truth is that he doesn't treat anybody as family, just kind of, it's self-preservation.
So speaking of Fredo, did Fredo deserve to die?
Yeah, that's a good question. Wow.
Not in that way.
Yeah. Not in that way. I don't know. I was trying to figure out as I was watching it, because Fredo, he's like, they show him in the past. He's the one that got the smallpox, right? Mm-hmm. Or he was a sick.
That's right.
A sick baby.
He's always
right?
sick.
Yeah, and then he puts this. He tells him, "I'm left on a doorstep," and when he's talking about the business with Michael, and he. But then then he lies to Michael, and it's obvious that he met that guy Ola before when he said he never met him and what have you, and so. Did he deserve to die? No, he didn't deserve to die. I think, because what it was, it's not whether he deserved it, but he was, to bring up another thing that was happening in the film between Michael and his wife. Fredo was a type of abortion from the family, and that went along with that theme there.
Oh yeah, I didn't put that together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve it, I don't think, but that fits in with what was happening. Yeah.
I think in the first film, the decision to send him to Vegas to set the groundwork was just a giant mistake. I mean, to send Fredo of all people to Vegas to start the family business there was just. But I guess that's the. A new leader, a new person running the family, they're going to have to learn. But, yeah, I don't... Rewatching, I remember him being... He's always been an annoying character, but I was surprised rewatching it that while he is an idiot and he betrayed the family, to kill your brother like that? I don't know. After family being such an important part to all of them, or at least, like you said, they claim it to be. Seemed very disjointed.
Yeah. That was the lie Michael was telling himself throughout the whole time, really. It's because his mother was telling him, you can never lose your family. But he's telling Fredo, you're nothing to me. So he changed that dynamic. His wife chose to change that dynamic by refusing to have another kid with him, and he also acted out in that same manner with Fredo. And he turned into a real dink.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, there's also the idea, like, there was nothing to be gained from killing Fredo other than retribution and for payback for the mistakes that he made. Yeah. There was no.
It was all about.
There was
Michael.
no idea that there was. Yeah, there was not that, and same with an awful lot of people, and I think the same could be said for even the first movie with Tessio, etc. It's a retribution thing. for that. He sort of took the tone of that, and the events at the end of the first movie lead to the events of the second movie. By the fact you just wipe out anybody that's wronged you.
Yeah, very much so. It reflects that first movie's ending, but and he keeps doing that. He keeps, and he, once again, it's all about him. Like when his wife tells him that information, it's his reaction to it. It's him getting angry. He's upset. There's no consideration for what she's feeling and what the others in the family might feel. It's similar to the first movie. There's no consideration for the feelings of any of the women in their lives. Even in this movie, even in the Vito flashbacks, Vito does the same closing of the door on his wife that Michael did at the end of The Godfather. And that same kind of patriarchy is still in place, and even worse, Michael takes it to a new level with his going darker and more selfish as we move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know, Chris, we talked about this before. How dark this film is filmed really bugs me.
Yeah.
How you can't see anything half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never liked that part of it. I always was like, yeah, but it's a great film and it's a great story and all that stuff. But I never liked how you couldn't see anything. And I know Coppola was probably making some sort of statement there about Michael's dark character or whatever. But, man, there are times I'm just like, what's going on? I have no idea.
It did seem it did seem a little pretty different in the way it was, like the colors and the way it was shot seemed off from the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we lost him.
We just lost Chris.
Okay, Chris is back.
For good or for worse.
Yeah, well, that's to be debated, but
everybody just thought about you'd done a Freddo on me. That's fine.
yeah,
That's fine. Went out in a fishing boat.
that was awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting how you guys were mentioning earlier about how Tom was dismissed again.
Yeah.
And almost disrespected. And then, but then as soon as somebody attempts to assassinate Michael, all of a sudden, he's in charge.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what you guys would make of that.
I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chris?
I think it has two kind of points to it. One, he's very capable and he's very loyal. But I also think he's ultimately disposable to Michael. At the heart of it all, he is... if he dies or something happens to him, it doesn't actually affect Michael in any real way, and he can pass it off to other people and that kind of stuff. There's that sense that he could do it, but there's no need to extend beyond the people, because he can't use Freddo for that. He can't use he's sort of killed everybody else that's around him. Even though there are people that are still loyal to him around the place, quite large amount of people, but they're not up for that kind of role. And it does ask this question about that ultimately gets answered and talked about in Godfather Part 3 is like, who follows Michael? Like, what happens after Michael? There's no succession here within the family or outside the family, even including Tom Hagen in a lot of ways, because he's of an age.
Yeah. Yeah. Tom, was it because he wasn't Italian? Isn't that a topic in the first movie that maybe that's why? But
yeah,
he's the most, because he worked with Vito, He's the most he's the most knowledgeable person around, and he's always just disrespected and pushed aside,
Yeah.
which I don't get. I know that Michael kind of tells him something like, I know that you're knowledgeable, that you can help me, but I push you aside for a reason. But I don't. What's that reason? I don't get it. I don't understand why does he want to make his own name and not have to depend on someone like that, or was it a power thing? I'm not sure, but Tom is not valued. You wonder how much of this could have been avoided if you would have had Tom advising him.
Yeah, and if he would have sent Tom to Vegas instead of Fredo.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, that's
yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
there was a couple of other inferences to the first movie that fit in thematically when Vito goes back to Italy and he assassinates that guy on the balcony there. I wonder how that ties into what happened to Michael in the first movie when Michael had a assassination attempt on him in Italy at the time, and I couldn't remember like all the names of the families in Italy and the characters and stuff like that. I didn't know if they tied in together, but it definitely had that same feel, like there's something going down in Italy that kind of tells you that these beefs that they're having now were always there. They were always in this culture, and they immigrated with the people who immigrated, and it just kind of it reminded you that Vito, like he was an old man who died at the end of the first in the first movie, and everybody kind of liked him, but it just reminded you that he was just as much of a bastard as anybody else was, and and that there was something about this society that they were in that still led to this kind of behavior and this kind of it just spoke volumes to that, and there was something in the the parade or whatever it was, the celebration that they were having, where all the Saints Day or something like that. I forget what the celebration was. It was some kind of religious holiday type thing where they're going through the streets and they have all the symbols, and they had one saint dressed up with all the dollar bills on it.
Oh yes,
You know,
yes.
like, there you go. There is a kind of a symbol of the worship of money.
Yeah.
And that is what Michael is doing throughout the whole second movie. That's where he's driving his business, his family. It's the worship of money. It's why he gets in bed with the guy in Cuba, and it's why he's getting in bed in Vegas with all the hotels and stuff. And he's just doing it that in a less primitive way, I guess you would say, than just praying to the saint of money on a stick. He's doing it the American way, and I felt that was a really powerful imagery and a statement there.
Yeah. It's that cycle of bloodshed and revenge that's never going to go away. I actually think you're probably right about the link from the first movie and the assassination attempt, linking back to Vito's revenge of that kind of thing, and again this idea that in all the trappings of family and how important family is in Italy, and all the trappings of Catholicism that are right throughout the film, that actually the god is money. It's the only thing that makes people stop and take notice of anything that's going on around them, is literally the money tree or the money place or anything like that. Even in Cuba, the ball that they're at is very much an opulent kind of American thing where they're kind of there to celebrate, and all the while the rebels are outside basically taking over the country, and this idea that they're only rebels that'll be quashed, and he makes the point himself that Michael kind of sees that revolution for what it is, and I think tries to take some learnings for it, but the fact that rebels can win, but he doesn't see that actually he's becoming part of the establishment rather than the rebel. I think he sees the family as the rebels, but they're actually, he's fighting to be the establishment, which is a nice kind of contrast for him. I don't think he even understands what side he's on anymore.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's also reiterated when he goes to Congress and he's testifying, and he's starting to it's starting to sink in that these people who were asking him questions, they're ultimately what he's becoming a part of. And it's what his father wanted him to become. His father wanted him to be that senator up there on the panel, asking the questions. And so that, like you said, Michael is part of the establishment, but he doesn't fully grasp that, I don't think. And he doesn't, he's almost selfishly kicking and screaming in his way onto the establishment without really fully embracing it, when it's like he's if you either have the family, the old style immigrant family, Italian, or you're part of the establishment, and him straddling both worlds is probably part of the conflict that leads to these things clash. And it's violent.
Absolutely.
The hearings were very reminiscent, or reminded me of the hearings in the '60s with Giancana and the Kennedys. Frank Giancana, the mobster who many people, myself included, think that he was responsible for assassinating JFK. That's a whole other conversation. But it reminded me of those hearings back in the '60s. I wonder if there was inspiration from those hearings for those scenes later in the film. But I couldn't. I don't know. Am I just an idiot, or were we not supposed to know who was double crossing who with the Roth thing? Because I lost track of what was really happening there.
I think that was on purpose. I think because even the characters aren't sure, like Frankie. If you're not unsure, then you're not sure how he's going to play out towards the end, and those meetings with Tom Hagen, etc., don't make as much sense, and all of that kind of stuff. And Frankie is an interesting character because it goes to show that actually family is important to him. He is traditional, old style Italian, in that Frank family was important. So as soon as he sees his brother, he totally falls on his sword, so to speak. And does that thing, because to him family is still the center of everything, and he should have been the model of the person that Michael should have been leaning on and all the rest of him, but he'd sold himself to the dollar and the Hyman Roth thing and the promise and to be the anointed and all of that kind of stuff. And that's the tragedy of it all, because there was a way and there was a sense of how it could have went, because as that all goes together, he stayed faithful and was a good man in a gangster sense, but had strict values, family values at the core of who he was, and it was nothing needed to be said. He just, I didn't say that, but that was a good scene. Like, to be honest, I said some things, but like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah, that was good. And you're right, Steve. That the plot did get a little convoluted when it came to, who was betraying who and who was setting up who, and it's more convoluted than the first film.
Oh, yeah.
The first film, the plot is a bit more straightforward, and so I think they tried to throw in a little mystery about what was going on there, and a little misdirection actually, and that made it more complicated, more complex, and I could definitely see losing how to think about who's betraying who, and was it Roth? That's the question, right?
Yeah,
I think it was, but
it was,
yeah. you know, it was confusing.
Yeah.
But I do like how they tied in the history of Castro into the
Oh yeah, yeah.
into the film. I thought that was
That
pretty
was fun.
brilliant. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Like how they pause to look at their birthday cake when they're in Cuba.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It did get a little twisty and curvy there for a while. Just what exactly is going on? Who's double crossing who, and who's tricking who? And my dad told me that he would be this person, and it just what? So I just lost track for a while.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
especially
but
when you have 3.5 hours
Yeah,
of a film, you can easily forget what somebody said an hour ago about who's talking to who, and you know.
I thought it was interesting when you go back to Vito's story about how far back in the relationship between Vito and Tessio. Though when you consider what happened to the Tessio at the end and how he betrayed him and all the rest of them, how closely linked their two lives were and their rise, because they basically stole the rug together. I mean, that was pretty much it, and it went back that far. So it was interesting to see who he was and how early in Vito's rise that came about.
I love how stealing a rug was
Oh,
the start
yeah.
of it all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's great.
yeah. It was funny. He did seem very confident dealing with this with the neighborhood mob boss.
Yeah. That bit didn't really work for me. The scene in the cafe. I mean, his whole rise is predicated on that scene, and I there's nothing about that character that says he would have respected that. He was literally just worshipping money. You know, it was not. I don't love that scene.
Yeah, it was too fast. I was expecting him to be kind of like a lynch, like a lower level worker, and slowly move his way up or something. But just to go from a nobody to, oh, don't you know who I am, kind of thing. It's like,
Yeah.
But I guess if you see your mom gunned down like that when you're 7 years old or whatever, maybe you have a different outlook on life. I don't know. Maybe you're not afraid of the neighborhood mob boss after you see that.
Mm. Yeah, they show him at the funeral when he's 9. I think it was 9-year-old Vito. And then the one thing I did like about that scene was how I thought De Niro did a great job of conveying a lot through silence. And he didn't talk a lot, and I thought he did a great job just saying a lot with his face rather than actually having a lot of dialogue in there. But yeah, I mean, it depends on how you look at his rise. If you look at his rise as it's just a street in the city and that's it, it might be fine, you know, for that. If it's over this vast criminal empire, then there's no explanation for how quickly it was. But I imagine that his vast criminal empire came much later, after the after I'm just the toughest dude on this block type of situation.
Yeah, for the young Vito portions, I think De Niro, well, because when he's little, they say, well, he's slow and dumb, or he doesn't talk a lot, or
Right.
he's kind of a dummy, he's harmless. Even I think his mom says that to she's begging for him to spare his life in Italy.
Yeah.
But I think he kind of embraces that in a way, and just kind of, uses that as a weapon. He turns that into something he can use, which to just not say too much and just say what has to be said and carefully choose your words. So I think he turned that into something of a weapon, or as a skill for him to use later.
Yeah. Yeah, and one thing I did really like also was the flashback at the end where Michael's with his brothers again,
Yeah.
sitting around the table. I thought that was just a beautiful scene, and it showed Michael's how different he was from them. A slight bit of alienation that he had, and kind of reminds us that his father set him aside to be something else, and because of that, he was set aside as part of the family dynamic for criminalhood. Um, and then of course, when his father dies, when he does, and he's in charge, he is not as connected as they are, and so and then that kind of goes with his turn to this darkness that comes out in him, and maybe leads to why he is actually able to pull off killing his own brother like that. So there's a lot of little things like that, and that were very, very cool, touching. Not touching, but
Yeah, that end scene is fantastic. It actually has loads of the nuance that we've been talking about in terms of like, and not having to spell everything out for people, but just putting that scene in at the end just said everything and contrasted everything in the entire movie in ways that you didn't need the veto bit to do. In my opinion, that was exactly it. If you can accomplish that in one small bit and one small scene at the end, and having a reminder of James Caan's character and having a reminder of how they all respected the father and all of that kind of stuff, it just kind of was the light and dark, and it was just it's a special scene, that one, and makes the entire movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think so too. I really loved that last scene. It was great.
I'm bummed that Brando wasn't there though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he had to go do Superman. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Oh, he was. I forgot that. Forgot about that.
I watched that the other day, indeed. Yeah, and to be honest, Brando kind of would have overshadowed that scene, I think, in a lot of ways, his presence being there, because the focus wasn't on him at that stage. It was on the boyish charm of Michael and the smiling and all of that kind of stuff that was at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, any other thoughts on The Godfather Part II?
The only other thing to say is that Coppola wasn't meant to direct it. He didn't want to direct it.
Really?
So he wanted to be producer of it, and he recommended another director to do it, and the studio turned him down. Who was that other director?
Spielberg.
Martin Scorsese. Was not big enough at that stage. He was supposed to be doing it, yeah, and was turned down by the studio, and Coppola decided, he was kind of coaxed into doing it with some provisos and that kind of stuff, but he just wanted to produce it because he'd had such a bad time making the first movie, and the problems with that. But yeah, it was supposed to be Scorsese's movie, which would have been really interesting, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because we were talking during the break about in 1990, The Godfather Part III was nominated for Best Picture. That year, The Goodfellas was also nominated for Best Picture. So it's funny how things come back around.
It is. Yeah. One of those films is not like the other.
Yeah. Just for sure, yeah. Just for sure. But,
yeah.
so where does this fit in your list of Best Picture winners thus far?
Yeah, it's up there. I mean, it's great. It's unfortunate that we have to compare it to the first one, but we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite possible, if I was to truly rank these and how I feel, that Godfather 1 could be number 1 and Godfather Part 2 could be number 2 in the entire list of the 15 films. Like, they are that good, these two films. Like, I might have West Side Story split the two of them, but in general, they are these could be 1 and 2 very easily.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jared? Where does this one fit for you?
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, Midnight Cowboys, it's pretty damn good. And I still love The Apartment. Jeez. Well, those are my top 4. I'm not sure. Yeah, it would probably be 1 and 2. Godfather 1 and 2. Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think for me it's probably top 5. I think I don't think it's better than Midnight Cowboy.
That's fair. That's completely fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure that it's better than The Apartment. Standing on its own. Yeah.
If you spend 2 minutes talking me into it, I could definitely put those in that order too.
Yeah, I could tell.
I think what's interesting though, even over the 15 things, you certainly do or can come to a consensus about what the best films out of all of these, even accounting for personal taste and all of that kind of stuff. I think there are certain films that stand up and stand alone, and they're definitely in the conversation. And while we might have one film that sits in or out of that, I think between the 15 films, the three of us can kind of come to, we'll probably have 4 or 5 common films in their top 6 or 7, you know what I mean?
Well, except for you, because you're putting Tom Jones at like number 4.
I knew it was coming. I knew. It just has to be a Tom Jones. I think we can all agree Tom Jones is bottom, if not near the bottom.
Tom Jones and Oliver.
Oliver. I don't like Oliver. No, not a fan.
All right, so next up is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
The greatest year of film. The greatest year of film, 1975. They could have went 20 deep this year, nearly in movies for Best Picture. It's ridiculous. I will put out there, I think One Flew... you seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Jared?
Yes.
Yes. So, it's an absolutely brilliant movie.
Yeah.
And of the 5 nominees from this year, it's my 5th favourite movie of the lot of them. And I love One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It is fantastic, but that year is special.
Well, so we'll see next time. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and we'll discuss it and have a couple of Tom Jones jokes, I'm sure.
Yeah. He's in the asylum with them in the background.
Yeah, he should be. But until next time, Chris, where can people find you?
They can find me on the Oscars Project podcast. They can find me on Speculative Speculations podcast. They can find me on patreon.com. Any of those places.
And Jared.
You can find me at the Fantasy Thinker YouTube channel, and you can find me at a whole bunch of podcasts on Page Chewing.
To lose track.
Visit the forums.
Yeah, come by and sit down.
Yeah.
And join conversations like these and tell us how wrong we are about whatever it is what we say. Until next time, we will talk to everyone soon. Hope everyone has a great day. Thanks for listening. Talk soon.